All right, y'all. Let's see here. So let me get on here and talk some boxing. I said I wasn't going to get on here too long today because of fights. So I said let me jump on here a little early and just talk some boxing. I know I don't talk it enough over here, but it's just a few things I wanted to discuss in the boxing world. Um, yeah, so I'll probably be on here like 30 minutes, 40 minutes because I know Bellator card. It starts at 6. Yeah. Like 6 o'clock or something like that. Yeah. 6 or 6:30. So you can watch that Bellator card. I think it's I say YouTube and it's on I think on Showtime too. Showtime's YouTube channel. But yeah, let me go ahead and get started, man. I just wanted to talk a little bit about this fight coming up tomorrow. Jamel Charlo versus Brian Castano. Because that's a fight I'm looking forward to. It's an undisputed fight. It's a match that makes sense. Charlo, he's trying to become undisputed at 154. So I want to talk about that because that fight takes place tomorrow. Now I just want to talk a little bit about Pacquiao Spence too, man, because a lot of people they've been talking about this fight, and a lot of people feel like it's going to be in favor of Pacquiao. They kind of count Errol out, or you got some people counting Pacquiao out. So I just want to look at each angle here. Who's who's really going to be in danger in this fight moving forward. I know Pacquiao has that experience, but he's also got that age. So just want to talk about that a little bit and just Terence Crawford. Just touch on some Terence Crawford things. Give my opinion. I've had some people ask me about it, so I said let me go ahead and talk about Terence a little bit and his whole situation. But yeah, man, this fight tomorrow it should be a good one. It's a fight on Showtime. Jamel Charlo versus Brian Castano. And you know, excuse me, about to trying to hold back a sneeze there. As y'all know, Jamel Charlo, he's been I'd say he's probably been one of the most established guys at junior middleweight in a while. To me, he's been one of those guys at junior middleweight that's always been consistent on fighting the best in the division. There's always been a pretty good level of competition at 154. And since he got that WBC belt, he won it and lost it. Won it back against Tony Harrison. He went right into a unification fight with Jason Rosario. Jason Rosario, he picked the belts up from J Rock. And, Jamel Charlo, he said, hey, I'm going to go right at it. I want to go right back into it and, unify. And he was able to pick up 2 more belts. And then right into his next fight, I know it's been like almost 10 months since he's been in the ring again, due to the pandemic and things like that. They just haven't had any fights lined up. He's been doing other things, but now that Brian Castano won that WBO belt from Patrick Teixeira, he's kind of brought that fight closer to home, because I think last time out, Patrick Teixeira mostly fought on the zone. So Brian Castano, he fights on with PBC. So that made this fight easier to make. They locked it in because Charlo, he wants to be that guy. He wants to be that guy that has all the belts in his division. You got to respect that. I had to get some water here. But going into this fight here, Brian Castano, he's undefeated. He's 17-0. And of course, this is his first world champion. And this will be the highest level fighter he's fought on his resume. I mean, he's fought Erislandy Lara to a draw, which was a tough competitive fight. Lara, he's kind of lost the step since his way past since his Angulo days and Canelo days. So I think that fight there kind of just balanced out, with Brian Castano. Brian Castano, he's kind of a pressure fighter. He'll put that pressure on you, and he throws those overhand rights. I've seen a few of his fights, but I can't really say he's like a devastating puncher. He's not really like a devastating puncher or anything. I know he does have about 12 knockouts, but he just doesn't seem like that hard hitter like Jermell Charlo. I know he has quite a few TKOs on his resume, but not really like that one punch knockout power like Jermell Charlo possesses. So going into this fight here, I think this style matchup might be more so easier for Charlo than the Rosario fight was. Rosario, he did have his moments with Charlo, but Charlo, he eventually adapted to the style and was able to break him down and stopped him with a body shot. Brian Castano, he's about 5'7". Jermell Charlo, I think he stands at 5'11". So Charlo's got that 4-inch height advantage. And let me check the reach advantage here too. I know Charlo's got like a 73-inch reach, and he's like 67. So yeah, Charlo's got that almost 5.5 to 6-inch reach advantage as well. So I can see Charlo going into this fight here and just being able to box a good fight from the outside. I know he's gonna have to be able to get the respect early from Castano, because Castano, he comes with it. He's gonna come with that pressure. He's gonna try to land those big power shots. He's gonna put that pressure like he did to Sharia. But Charlo, I think he's a little bit more grounded on his feet. He can fight off the back foot a little bit better. He's physically stronger, and Charlo has a very good jab. Very good straight jab. Good straight punches all around, straight jab and his straight left hand. Straight right hand. So I think this fight here, it could be a fight where Charlo just keeps it on the outside, boxes a good rangy fight, and picks his shots. Lands good counter punches on Castano. I eventually could see him scoring a stoppage. For Charlo, I think going into this fight, he's going to have to, control that pace, keep it in the center of the boxing ring, use his jab, mix it up, and just rip the body. Slow that pressure fighter down with body shots. So for him, knowing he has those tools to his ability and he is the taller fighter, I think Jermell Charlo is pretty cut and dry on what he needs to do. It's pretty straightforward on what the taller, longer fighter needs to do. They need to use their jab. They need to use counterpunching. Make their presence known with that power. Brian Castano, I think him being that power puncher, being the pressure fighter, can't come straight in. He's going to have to come in at angles, be offbeat, bounce around on his feet a little bit in this fight, and, shoot the jab at different levels. You got to shoot to the body, shoot to the chest, and you got to keep the pressure on Charlo. You got to keep him in the corners. You got to keep him against the ropes, and you have to make him uncomfortable. That's what pressure fighters do. You have to keep the guy off balance, and you have to pile up points. You have to convince the judges that you're winning every single round with this rough, tough style and, constant pressure that you put on a fighter. And he has to go to the body. He has to kind of approach this fight like Canelo did Caleb Smith. I know Castano doesn't have that type of skill set, but, Castano, he can close in with that range if he loops his right hands more. If he loops him over with little choppy style, he can come over the top on Charlo and land over the jab of Jermell Charlo. So yeah, but if I had to pick, man, for this fight, I'm gonna go with Jermell Charlo by stoppage in this one. I think maybe mid-round or late round stoppage. I think Jermell Charlo, he just has the better skill set all the way around. He's bigger, stronger. He's the longer fighter here. So I think Jermell Charlo, after a few bumpy rounds where he's going to have to figure out that pressure, he's going to start picking his shots and get more settled in and more comfortable. He's going to start landing straight shots. And you'll see Brian Castano start to get wobbled. I think you'll start to see him get wobbled in those mid rounds until if he's able to survive round 6 and 7, then he might go down around 8 or 9, So I think Charlo's going to win this one by TKO, late round TKO. So yeah, that's my pick for this undisputed fight. So I just had to come on and talk about this one because it's rare that we get these fights that make sense. I know people say Brian Castano was not like a big name, but he has a belt. And this is the fight where Jamel cleans out the division. It's the last fight he needs to clean out the division. But let's see here. I'll just pull up some points here. We'll jump to this next topic here real quick. Mm-mm-mm. 1 second, y'all. Okay, hang on. All right, so Manny Pacquiao, and Errol Spence. I did get a chance to watch the press conference to this one. I did get a chance to go back and watch it, and the thing about these two, I wasn't expecting a bunch of antics with these two. They're more laid back and more so humble. There's not going to be a lot of trash talk with Manny or with Errol Spence. They're just gonna say what they're gonna do without giving away the game plans, and that's pretty much what you want to hear. You really just want to see how they react to what the other says, and you want to see the body language. That's how I am. I just like to see the body language. I mean, I do like to hear trash talk if it makes sense, but if it's not in that fighter's character, then I really don't want to hear it. So they didn't really step out of bounds here. If anything, Manny did a little bit. Manny, he kind of stepped out of bounds, just out of his character just a little bit. Because Errol, he was asked a question about Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather had given him any tips on facing Manny Pacquiao. Had he reached out to him? And Errol was straight up. Errol was straight up. He was like, "No, Floyd hadn't reached out to me." He's pretty much straightforward. He ain't gonna lie. He said he hadn't reached out to him. And then Manny, he went on and came back with his little comment and said, "Well, Floyd doesn't need to reach out to Manny. Floyd doesn't need to reach out to Errol. Errol could probably teach him some tips." I was like, wow, Manny trying to talk some trash here. He was trying to throw some disses at Floyd. He was trying to say Errol's a better fighter and he could teach Floyd how to fight toe to toe. Which I don't know how to take that, because we all know how much better Floyd is than pretty much any fighter of today. Hey, Marcus Bell, what's up, man? We know Floyd is one of the best fighters of all time, and fighting toe to toe doesn't make you the best fighter in the world, and it just sounds kind of like Manny wanted to draw Errol into another realm and maybe take him out of his mindset a little bit and say, okay, maybe I can get Errol to fight me toe to toe, or fight me in the way that I want to fight a guy, tailor-made style, where he's just a puncher coming at me. But that's not Errol's style. Errol does have a lot of levels to him. People talk about Errol being flat-footed, but I don't think people really understand the meaning of that, especially like the Manny Pacquiao fans, the boxing casual fans. Just because a guy isn't always on the balls of his feet, that doesn't mean that he's slow or doesn't know how to box. That's just how some guys choose to stand to generate their power. Canelo, he's considered one of the best boxers, right? But he's not always on the balls of his feet. He's a flat-footed guy. To me, there's stationary and flat-footed. I think when you think more so flat-footed, you just think of a guy who's just kind of plodding around and they're slow and they don't really have footwork. But Errol Spence does have footwork. He's not on the balls of his feet all the time, but he does have footwork. He does have angles. He knows how to cut the ring off. So I think that's one of the things that people overlook here. Like, Errol Spence is a boxer. He's just not the boxer that you're used to seeing, but he can box, and I think that's what a lot of people are underestimating here. Freddie Roach himself, he's trying to say Keith Thurman was a better fighter. There's not a big threat in Errol Spence. There's a lot of people just thinking that Errol doesn't have the game plan, but they're counting out a lot of things that Errol Spence has. For me, he's got youth on his side. And it's like Manny said himself in a previous interview, Errol's bigger and he's stronger. And that kind of tells you right there that the odds have to be more so in favor of Errol right there, because Errol Spence knows how to use that strength. He knows how to use that size against a smaller fighter. He knows how to use straight punches. He knows how to use his strength, and he gets stronger down the stretch in the fight. Where some fighters get tired, he tends to get stronger and stronger. If you go back and look fight against Kell Brook, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, all of these fights, Errol Spence, when he goes down the stretch with the right strength and conditioning coach, and Blu-ray, Blu-ray, that's his S&C coach. But with him on his team, he tends to get stronger down the stretch in the fight. He gets stronger and stronger, and that's what they're not looking at. I think Manny is. Manny's definitely paying attention to that, but I don't think a lot of people who are with Manny are really understanding what type of monster Errol Spence can be. They see, okay, flat foot. Okay, he's not on the balls of his feet. Okay, we can just do this all day. But Errol knows how to cut the ring off. Again, he knows how to cut the ring off. He knows how to time you. And that's another factor. Like, can Manny keep that speed up that everybody's talking about for 12 rounds? Or however long he needs. Because he's going to need it for 12 rounds, because fans are thinking Manny Pacquiao by TKO. Okay, well, when was the last time Manny knocked somebody out cold? About 11, 12 years ago, right? Matter of fact, let me pull up the resume here, because he stopped Lucas Matisse 2 or 3 years ago, and that was a stoppage. He stopped Miguel Cotto back in 2009, and that wasn't like he knocked him out cold. Before that, I want to say it was Ricky Hatton, because Ricky Hatton got hit with the overhand left and he was out. But since then, it's just been decision after decision where he's just been using his speed to beat up these bigger guys, but not stop them. It's more so like they just can't get the rhythm down and they get blinded by the speed. But as you get older, 10 years past, that kind of fades away. Eventually, somebody's going to be able to figure that out. Like Juan Marquez did. Juan Manuel Marquez, he was able to figure it out. It took him 4 fights, but he finally figured it out. Dropped Manny once in the fight and finally dropped him to end the fight. Let's see. Yeah, the Ricky Hatton fight. Yeah, it was right before. It was a few months before the Miguel Cotto fight. That was 2009. So that was a good 12 years ago since he knocked somebody out cold with his style, with his power. Of course, Lucas Matisse, like I said, he's more of a tailor-made guy for him. He's got that puncher style where he can just tee off on him. It wasn't like he laid him out. So I don't see, and of course he knocked Keith Thurman down. That was more of a flash knockdown because he was not used to that speed, right? A lot of these guys weren't. Chris Algieri dropped 6-7 times in that fight. He wasn't used to it. But the bigger the guys are, the more durable they're going to be to this type of power. So Manny Pacquiao's power, it's not concussive. It's more so the element of surprise. It's so shocking because he throws so quick, it's so fast, and he throws flurry combinations. He throws flurries, those combinations, they baffle you. So eventually they will drop you. And they, like I said, straight left hand will come so fast and at an awkward angle or straight up the middle that you don't see it coming, and boom, your body can't react. So you get dropped. But the bigger the guys are, even like Jeff Horn, and guys like Errol Spence, even Adrian Broner, I think they're made to take those punches. They can take them and they can nullify that type of style that Manny Pacquiao has. So Manny has to be more so than he's got to be something different than he was in 2009. He can't be that same guy. He's got to be something different. Some people think, okay, you're going to go back. He's got to be back to that man he was that was beating up Margarito. Margarito was tailor-made for him. Margarito has zero defense. That guy has zero defense. He's just going to take punches all day until he can walk you down and knock you out. Errol is not that guy. Errol's got a high guard. Errol will go to the body. Errol's going to time you. Errol will back you up, and he will home in with some good punches. Good straight shots down the middle. So I'm hoping that Manny, they're taking this fight seriously for real. They're not just taking it to say, okay, we fighting the toughest, but this is a dangerous fight. This is a dangerous fight at the point of his at this point in his career. I think 2 years off. It's very, very it's very risky. I know he thinks that it was some good time to recover, but I don't know. I don't know. Sometimes 2 years off at Manny Pacquiao's age, in his early 40s, that can be a disadvantage because your body starts to settle. Time starts to take over. You start getting comfortable. Like they say, when you get older, if you don't use it, you lose it. If you don't stay consistent with it, you take 2 years off, your body's going to have to kind of readjust. Like, I know Manny's still, a lot of the things are still second nature, but what about the timing? The timing could change now. He might miscalculate a punch and then get caught. So those are just little things that I'm thinking about with Manny Pacquiao. Manny is not the same guy. I just can't say he's going to go in there and outspeed Errol and do like he does everybody else, because that means you're just counting out what Errol can do. Errol's the unified champion. He's beat some of the best guys at 147. So, not doing a full-on pick yet, but just kind of covering some different things I'm hearing people in the boxing world say here. Because, yeah, Manny, he definitely has an impressive resume, 62-7, but he has been stopped before. And his last fight was a split decision loss to Keith Thurman. Keith Thurman did start to home in on him and land some good punches, and Manny started to slow down towards the second half of the fight. I did have Manny winning the fight, though, but there were some dangerous moments in that Keith Thurman fight. And I know if Manny slows down in this fight, that's going to be dangerous, because Errol will cut that ring off. He will cut that ring off, and he will land combinations as soon as he sees Manny Pacquiao slow down. As soon as he catches Manny, he's going to go in for the kill. Because let's match them up again. Manny, Manny's 5'5", or about 5'6", with a 6-7 inch arm reach. Errol, he's got Errol's got about a 3.5 inch reach advantage in this fight, 5 inch reach advantage as well. And if they go back and look at what the boxers did, the patient boxers that use timing, it's going to be a long night. It's going to be a long night for Manny Pacquiao. Because some people think, to beat Manny, you gotta have quick feet, you gotta bounce around, you gotta use angles. Not really, man, because if you're moving around a lot, you're giving Manny time to think, and you give him space, and you're giving him enough room to walk you down as well. And he's going to have room to land those combinations. Kind of like with Chris Algieri. Chris Algieri was a boxer. He was doing a lot of movement, but he got dropped 6 times in that fight. So if you're the patient boxer with timing, you know how to measure reach like Marquez, Floyd Mayweather, and you have that level in you, and you stand your ground, that's where it gets dangerous. Manny can beat punchers with zero defense, them guys that come forward. He can beat the guys moving backwards. But the guys who stand their ground, the guys who can box, the guys who can extend their reach and see him coming and just use a basic punch like the straight right hand and the jab, that's Manny's kryptonite. You know. So yeah, boxing fans I see hitting the scene thinking this is gonna be some kind of TKO win for Manny Pacquiao. They gotta think twice, man. And I see Manny out here doing a lot of things. These celebrities, I see what's his name, Jake Paul coming through, and he's just got this big crowd around him. I not seeing that with Arrow. It seems like Arrow, they're really focused. Spence, he's kind of closed in, and he's training, and they're just putting everything together. So they got to watch out, man. This is a dangerous welterweight fight, for the legend, definitely, because Arrow's trying to make his legacy, and he's not going to bow down for him in this fight. Definitely not going to be that guy to just bow down for him. Because when you put the bigger guy, the stronger guy that can box in there with a fast guy, who's experienced, but time's not on his side, it's gonna be a long night for him. Definitely gonna be a long night for Manny. So let's see. What else I want to talk about real quick today before I get up out of here? Terence Crawford. Yeah, I guess I'll talk a little bit about him. Talk a little bit about Terence Crawford. Terence, it's kind of on the outside looking in and seeing all these other welterweights making fights, and all these belts on one side and Terence Crawford on this side. He's had this belt now for almost 3 years. And then seeing Spence get this fight with Manny Pacquiao, and then Crawford just kind of fall through with his negotiations with Manny Pacquiao, just makes me say, what's next for him? What's going to happen? Latest with Terence Crawford is that he's fighting in October. A guy that, well, they're going through negotiations. He's going through negotiations with a guy named Jose Zepeda. Not a big name, right? And word is he's supposed to be fighting this guy on a Friday. So just all the stuff I'm hearing, him losing the Manny fight, Spence getting the Manny fight, Terence Crawford's next fight is on a Friday. Top Rank and Bob Arum just not backing him. I'm just at this point like, when is Terence Crawford going to just make that choice and say, look, I need to take the last years of my career into my own hand? Why can't he, why can't Bob Arum push him the same way he's trying to push his other fighters like Lopez, Fury, or Lomachenko? Why is the guy that some people consider number one pound for pound, why is he fighting on a Friday? There's just so many crazy things. Like he's not really being treated like a pound for pound king to me. Do not know whenever Roy was on top, Roy was seen as the number one guy. Ring Magazine couldn't deny it. He had all the belts. Everybody in every weight division just about wanted a piece of Roy. They wanted to really test him out. And, he was the guy on HBO at the time. Everybody gave him respect. They saw him as that top guy in boxing. It seems like with Terence, he was a former undisputed champion at 140, and he has a belt at welterweight, but it's just not the same. Like I don't see that respect there for Terence, like the guys like Roy were getting, and even and Floyd is not there for Terence. I mean, for the hardcore fans that enjoy his style, like, I enjoy watching his fights. I definitely give him a lot of respect with his style. But as far as like being recognized as one of the best and being treated like the best, it's not there. It's not there by the promoters. And it's definitely not there by like the casual fans in the boxing world. They're not recognizing him like that. And with the fights he's been getting, it's not there. Because if this fight was really something that the boxing world wanted, and his promotion wanted it for him, they would bend over backwards to get the Errol Spence fight. But what's going on? Like, what the hell's going on? Like, what kind of politics could stop the best fight in the world at 147 from being made? I can't say it's greed, because if greed was part of this, then they would try to make that fight. They would try to milk Terence for all they could get. Same with Errol. They would want to make the best fight, because the best fight would make a lot of money. Nobody wants to see Jose Zepeda. At the time, people didn't really want to see Errol Spence and Manny Pacquiao fight. They wanted to see Spence and Crawford fight. But I'll definitely take Spence versus Pacquiao over Crawford versus Zepeda, right? Hell, I'll definitely take that over Crawford's last 2-3 opponents, Amir Khan and Kell Brook. So my thing is, like, what's going on this side? Like, what's going on Terence Crawford's side, where he can't seem to get any solid fight at 147, whether it be Sean Porter or Keith Thurman? Well, we're coming up on what? This should be like his last fight on Top Rank. So if this fight means they close out his contract, then so be it. I mean, it's just going to go down as another fight. But hopefully, if he can get out of this contract, we can move on. And he can move on as a free agent and try to do something with the last few years of his career, because Crawford's going on 34 now. He's going on 34. I know he's Hall of Fame. But he's got that on lock, being a Hall of Famer. So that's something that he's always wanted to do. He's a 3-division world champion, right? So that's marked off of his list. But will people see him as an all-time great? I don't know. I'm just looking at some of his past fights right now on his resume, and it's been a minute before there was like a really, really big, significant fight. When he was on the right path back in 2016 and 2017. He fought a fight at welterweight against Felix Diaz, where I thought he was going to get a PBC fight from there. He unified his belts, moved up, beat Jeff Horn for his belt, and then all of a sudden, the competition just stayed the same. They couldn't get the Manny fight. They couldn't get the Danny fight. They couldn't get the Sean Porter fight. Couldn't get a Keith Thurman fight. Hell, I think Errol Spence will probably fight Keith Thurman before Terence Crawford does. Say if Keith Thurman beats Ugas for his WBA belt, whoever wins that fight will probably fight Errol next. And then Errol will get another belt. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I really don't know what could be next for Terence. I think he just needs to get out of this contract with Top Rank, move on. Everybody from Manny Pacquiao and Floyd and Oscar De La Hoya, they all tried to avoid, get away from that. They all got away from Top Rank. So I really don't know why you would re-sign with Top Rank if they're not treating you with respect. Bob Aramari went on record to say he was losing money with, and he's not really trying to push him like, I got the best fighter in the world on my side. Which is where Bob and them kind of failed, because they say Terence Crawford's not promotable, but if he's seen as number one fighter in the world, you got to find that angle to promote the guy. You got to be throwing him in everybody's face saying, I got the best guy in the world. He'll beat Errol. He'll beat Keith. He'll beat Manny. He'll beat all these guys. He has to be calling out the PBC guys saying, look, you got all the welterweights, but I got the best. My one welterweight can beat all yours. They never really pushed Terence Crawford like that. That's where they kind of failed with him. So he does need to go out on his own. That's pretty much my final thoughts on that. Terence Crawford just got to go out on his own and do his thing. because there's just been so much like negative energy around him too. Like even whenever Terence Crawford's trainer was giving his thoughts on Manny Spence fight, you know, they were like, I don't care about that fight. I don't care who wins that fight. You could tell that they were kind of upset about it because Terence, his negotiations fell through. They couldn't get it. And I already heard that Manny was also saying that the Terence fight could happen after the Arrow fight for him. You know, if he's to win, if he's to beat Arrow, he might see if he can get that Crawford fight. But we'll see about that though. But yeah, man, I'm about to get up out of here. Like I said, I just want to give some boxing thoughts. Some people asked me about some stuff going on in the boxing world. Like I said, I'll try to get back more on it. I think I'll get back on it when boxing gets back on it. You know, when boxing really gets back to where it needs to be, I'll be back on it like that. But yeah, man, let me get up out of here. This Bellator card is about to start soon. Hold on, let me see here. Pull up the website here. Bellator. Oh, they got it scheduled for 6:25. All right, so the prelim started 6:25, which I will be tuning in. But yeah, let me get up out of here, y'all. I will be doing post fights tonight. Yeah, for sure. I'm going to do a post fight for Velasquez and Keelholtz. And who else? Blanco and Silva. But yeah, let me get up out of here. Like always, Combo Breaker 99. I am out. Subscribe. Peace.